I am super excited to have Leeza Steindorf from Core Success with me again today for our last and final installment, part 3 of how to be an impactful communicator. Hi, I'm Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe marketing shouldn't be difficult. All you need is the right plan. Leeza, welcome back. Thanks for being here with me once again.
Nice to be here, Tim. Thanks.
Yes, so we are going to cap this all off today. I know in part 1, we touched on why conversations go south. We talked about the 4 steps of impactful communication and the importance of understanding ourselves as part of this whole communication process. Part 2, we jumped into some real world examples to really help hammer this framework home. And today, we're going to talk about how it's so important to understand the other person's perspective or other people's perspective, if there's multiple people, to try and tie all this together. Before we do that, can you just summarize the 4 steps again for us to make sure we've got that?
Sure. So the first and second can be switched around, but the first one basically is to observe the facts, to speak to what is observable and measurable, something we can all agree upon. So for example, you are wearing, I think I've used this example before, you are wearing glasses, black glasses, right? That's something you can measure, color, shape, visual, and so forth. And then we speak about our feelings. I'm real excited that you're wearing these glasses. and then we can talk about why that is. Why am I having that experience of your glasses? Because I know that you suffered from, headaches, and I'm glad to see that you found a solution. And then you're headache free.
Yeah.
And so then the final one is a request if it's present, and it may be, I've been having headaches. Could you let me know where'd you get those, or what doctor did you see that actually prescribed those for you?
Got it. So sometimes, depending on the conversation, that last one, we may not necessarily have a request.
We may not have a request. Exactly.
Got it.
Most
okay.
of the time, when the situation is tense or
yes,
there usually is. But if we are just sharing like I just did, or often when we're affirming people, there's not a request. So, but these 4 steps are useful, and I love them, especially when I'm affirming someone, because when you're specific, instead of just saying, "Oh, hey, Tim, you look great," right? But I really like the gray shirt on you. You've got a little bit of gray in your hair. You look nice. You look handsome. That specificity sounds a lot different than, "Hey, you look great."
Yeah. Right? Yeah. People latch on to the specificity there. So I know you've got a few examples to kind of help us understand, like how we understand other people's positions. Mm-hmm. Let's just jump into those.
Okay. And before I come into the first example, I'd like to explain why this is important. And so a lot of people
absolutely awesome.
Why should I understand that other person? I'm not okay with the situation. What do I care about the other person? Well, there's two parts to that. First of all, caring about another individual in a conversation is about our humanity. It's about connection, which is I'm about connection. I think we all are at the deepest level. We just don't know how to go about it. The other thing, however, is though, if there's a situation where there's conflict or tension, that's your best way of actually being heard. So when we become defensive, or when we feel like we're in danger, we go into fight, flight, or freeze. We go into our back. The oldest part of our brain, the reptilian brain, is ready to take action and defend ourselves. It's not from the latest development of our brain, which is the frontal lobe, the cognitive part. So when things get tough, we actually go back into our back brain, and you think, "Oh, that's ridiculous. I'm a 21st century adult." You may be, but physiologically, you still have these things going on, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody starts saying, "I can't believe you did this," or "Why did you do that?" where we go is to, okay, emergency, let's fight, flight, flee, or freeze. So speaking somebody else's perspective for them, when you recognize the situation and when you have that clarity and that ease, is super useful to help them calm down and move from that defensiveness into the frontal lobe, where you can actually then have a conversation. And that's where the steps of mediation, or even these 4 steps, are really useful to kind of level the playing field, calm things down, so that you can have a conversation that everybody's perspective can be heard, and then look for a common solution.
Yeah. Do you think that when we can understand the other person's perspective, it's easier to find a potential path that we can both go down together.
Absolutely. So when I do mediation, I love, people are like, I can't believe you like mediation, or going into large corporations and doing crisis transformation, right? People are upset and there's accusations flying, and how could you enjoy that? When I have that opportunity, whether it's in large groups or on small party issues, the piece that I love most is when people really hear the other person and they're like, is that what you really think? Is that what's really going on for you? They could never hear that.
Yeah.
So when we have the opportunity to calm the situation down, and sometimes emotions are fine. If there's not a problem with getting upset, angry, frustrated, whatever, it's not the time, though, to be looking for solutions when that's going on, right? So we let that play out, or take time out. But when we were seeking solutions or seeking to have connection, to have that calm playing field, and then people can really hear, and then it's like, whoa, Tim, I can't believe that's what you're really saying. And then you may say, I've been saying that for like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But it couldn't be heard. And
Yeah.
so that's the real beauty of being able to find solutions through this process.
Awesome. So what's the first example?
Okay, so I had a phone call. This was many, many years ago, but it was a strong example, where I was setting up my first coaching practice. And a friend of mine's husband had a radiology practice, large, complex, beautiful buildings with soft lighting and water flowing inside. I mean, it was really more like a hotel. And the doctor, he said, Dr. Cole, he said, of course you can come and do an open house and invite people and kind of launch your business. And I was totally stoked. This was gorgeous and what an opportunity. So set it all up on a Sunday and made flyers and invitations. And it was the Wednesday prior, and I get a phone call from someone. I pick up the phone, hello, and I hear on the other end, is this Leeza Steindorf? And I said, yes, it is. Who do you think you are? And I was like, well, I think I know who I am. I'm not quite sure what the question is, right? And he said, I'm Dr. Smith, and who do you think you are to come into my practice and start hanging up flyers and telling people you're having something here on some event here, and I've never even spoken to you? And I'm listening. I'm thinking really quickly, thinking, what is he talking about, Dr. Smith? I know Dr. Cole really well.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? And as I'm listening to him, he's so upset. I knew quickly there was no way I was going to have a conversation with him. So in my confusion and also in my surprise, I just started speaking his situation. So I said, from the information I had, right, just from his sharing, I said, so Dr. Smith, I can hear you are really upset. You come to work and you find flyers from a person you've never met, and you're told by your receptionist that there's an event in your practice on Sunday, and you never approved it. And I can imagine, like, you are really not only confused, but livid that somebody would just intrude in your professional space. And I hear you saying, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and you don't want foreign people in there that aren't even your clients. And you probably would like to know what in the heck's going on and who I am, right? So I went through just those 4 steps with him. And he said, absolutely, absolutely. And then because I had spoken that, he didn't have any more momentum, right? And then he said, so who are you? And so now we're in a conversation.
Yeah.
Now, and he was still upset. It wasn't that was gone, but now he was engaged. He was no longer accusing. He was no longer as agitated. He was in a place now he wanted to understand. And at the end of the conversation, what we got clear on is that Dr. Cole and Dr. Smith don't communicate.
Yeah. But if you had jumped into, hey, I got approval from Dr. Cole right in that beginning of that conversation, it probably would not have gone as well as it did.
It would have, exactly. It would have not only escalated the phone discussion that we were having, but it also would have caused problems in that situation, which I wasn't interested. Here's the thing. I wasn't looking at who was at fault.
Right.
I was interested in what's happened here, what's your experience, and what's my experience. And if you want to have any kernel of usefulness in any of this, it's that. Instead of looking for who's at fault, seek to understand what's going on. When you remove that piece, or defend yourself from fault, when you remove that piece, you have no loss. It's like, wait a minute, let me understand. Why are you yelling at me? Who are you?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you existed. And he's feeling the same way, right?
This reminds me of a quote, and I can't remember who said it. You might know, where they said, "Seek to understand before seeking to be understood."
Well, that's actually St. Francis of Assisi.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. It's
Right.
kind of a golden rule, if you will, golden rule of engagement. And so it was interesting then what ensued from that. And then I went into the practice, and then the three of us had a conversation. And indeed, it turned out that those two had issues with each other, which was not my thing, right? But
Yeah.
then I had to backtrack. I couldn't even have the event because they couldn't clarify. So it's not that it came out smelling rosy as far as the results go, but the conversations were peaceful.
Yeah.
And what was really going on became clear, which I was not the problem. Their communication had been the issue.
Yeah.
And I was caught in the crossfire.
Sorry that happened.
Yeah, it's gives me the opportunity to share it with other people. And yeah, here I am with a thriving practice, and it doesn't matter whether I had it there at their
Right.
so
You found ways to succeed in spite of that.
exactly.
So what? I know you got some other examples. What else is top of
Another
mind?
one is similar to your field of business. So I had recommended someone to do web design.
Okay.
This was a while back. And now I probably recommend you, Tim.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have clients. So I also work with small businesses. I do strategic planning, and I help people, think through how they want to proceed in their business and do business consulting. So I was working with a small group, and I had recommended to them a web designer with whom I had had some good experience. And one of the women came back to me in the group and just was irritated as heck, and was talking about this guy who's doing this work, and he's doing a horrible job, and he doesn't get back to me. And she's really was on fire. And again, right, instead of being interested as, well, it's not my fault, I'm not the web designer, I only recommended the guy, right? Is I said to her, I said, wow, I said, so you've called him 3 times and he's not responded to you. And it's already been 5 days since you've heard from him. And you paid him a retainer of $1,200 from the $2,500 you were going to give him. Like that's a lot going on, right? So there's the facts.
Yeah.
And I can hear like you're frustrated, and I can understand that you're probably also concerned about the outcome. Like if he's dealing with your communication this way, how's actually the product going to look when you're at that point? And you want this to work well because this is the website you're investing in for your new business. Like it's important to you. So I'm curious, are you asking me to get in touch with this designer, or do you want me to support you in getting in touch? Like, what is it that you're asking me to do? I'd be glad to help. Right.
There you go.
So there would be the 4 steps.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important for people to realize here, we're using the 4 steps for ourselves and our point of view, but in this case, you're using it from the other person's perspective, walking through the framework about how they feel about the situation.
Right. And it's powerful, as I said before, because it takes people out of their aggressive or assertive mode and seeking blame. Even if you're not, they are still looking for whose fault this is.
Yeah.
Right? And what happens is, and this is something, as I said in our first conversation, Dr. Carl Rogers did research in this, which was just, in my opinion, so essential for humanity. When somebody is understood at a deep level from their own frame of reference, just being understood is healing, even if nothing changes. Just to have somebody in here with me, getting me, it's like, oh, God, yes, that's it. That's exactly it. And maybe you've noticed that when you've had with your children or with partner or with friends, it's like when you get somebody, it's like, oh, hallelujah, somebody understands me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what goes on here. And what is really wonderful from that is then both people can move forward in a manner that really is connected. It's not, it's me against you, but now we're together. Why most people don't want to do that is because they feel they're going to lose their stance, lose face, they're going to be at fault. Just the opposite. When you can suspend your perspective or your experience for just a moment, not forever, just for a moment, just suspend it, put it to the side for a minute, it's not lost, and seek to understand the other person, speak that for them. And you're guessing, you don't know for sure, but
Right.
you can be as clear as you want, and they'll correct you too. I'm not angry, I'm sad. Okay, so I hear you're sad that the web designer, hasn't shown up for you, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go down that road. When you can suspend it, you have no loss, you have a gain, because then you really you're getting your highest chance for the other person to hear you. You really are.
So I wanna touch on this because you just brought this up. How are you knowing the other person's position or perspective? In most cases, are you guessing based on the information that you have, or are there other tips or tricks you have for us there?
Great. That's a great question, Tim. First of all, they'll tell you, like, if you're just listening clearly, you can hear it. You can hear if they're angry, if their voice is raised, if there's tears in their eyes, there may be sadness there, could be frustration. If you know any of their history, like in this situation, if I'm coaching people in starting their business, right? As a business owner, the concerns of making an investment, having a return on that investment. You have time challenges of trying to pull all those pieces together before a launch and so forth. So you can interpret or intimate certain things as best
Yeah.
you can. And you can also preface it by saying, I'm not sure if this is how you're feeling, but I'm seeing, tears in your eyes, and I'm guessing you probably feel sad. So it's not, well, you're sad because, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to understand this person. You're not trying to be right about what they're feeling. You're trying to understand them. And
Yeah.
even if you're off base, they're going to feel that attempt, as I said earlier, just to care enough to want to understand somebody. And then you can kind of extrapolate, and maybe it's because you have a time frame and you only had $2,500 to invest in website, and now half that's gone, and you may have to find someone else, and you're concerned
Right.
about your finance. So, as an adult, as a person who's been on the planet a couple years, you can kind of figure it out. And as I said, if you're not adamant about it and you say, well, maybe you're feeling this way, they're going to say, no, I'm feeling that way. Oh, okay. So now, you're not sad, you're scared that it's never going to get done.
Yeah. So that also touches on, what if I get the position wrong?
Mhm.
I'm hearing you say, well, they're going to tell you, and then you can take that and continue
Right.
down the road.
Or, I got that so wrong. That's how I would feel. So I'm curious, how do you feel? Like, you can
Yeah.
ask, not like you have to stick to these 4 steps, right?
Yeah.
Ask them, like, how you I'm terrified. I'm terrified because this keeps happening to me, and I don't know how I'm going to ever change this pattern of bad things happening to me. Well, now we're in a completely different conversation
Yeah.
than the web designer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing for people to get is, you said we got to listen, so, and man, sometimes we're in conversation and we're kind of listening, but then we're already thinking about what we need to say next, and we're really not present. So we need to listen. That's going to give us the information we need to then communicate in a way that's going to help move this conversation down the road.
It's interesting. You said, and rightly so, we need to listen. I would tweak that. We don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
The question that I encourage people to ask is, what's important to me here? Right? And
Yeah.
so it's important to me to get my point across, then get your point across. It's probably not going to get you a result of a conversation, though. Right?
Yeah. So your end, it depends on what your end goal is.
Yeah, end goal, or the experience you want to give yourself is
Yeah.
how I think, because I don't know the end goal. I can't force a positive outcome.
Right.
Yet I can create a circumstance in which I have the highest chance of a win-win, a situation where we can both at least understand one another. And the way that I can do that is, what's important to me is to understand myself and the other person. And when we have understanding, if we're caring human beings, I've done this with people who are special needs. I've done this with people who are psychotic, or had a psychotic break or some mental health issues. I've done this with children. So when you are willing to understand yourself and the other person, the other human beings show up the best way they can. And then you have so many points of reference to connect on.
Yeah.
So just knowing what's important to me here is really useful. And from that place, then you can practice the 4 steps and other tools.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get tools and just apply those without really knowing why you're doing it or what's important to you, it's going to be formulaic. It's be missing the meat.
Yeah. Got it. So how does this help us? Like we understand the other person. What's next?
Well, as I said, connection. So if we go back to the 2 situations, the first one where I had I was supposed to have the grand opening of my business. It helped clarify, at least for them, that they had issues going on, and I had to figure something else out. But it got me out of an embroiled situation. In the second one with a web designer, I helped a client of mine clarify what's important for her, and we also clarified in the end. Then she called the web designer, and her problem was that she had not been communicating as clearly as she thought she had.
Got it.
So her web designer was doing the work. He just wasn't clear that she wanted updates consistently. So work wasn't getting done. So that clarity was there. And what the request from her is tell me how I should talk to him about that, because she was conflict averse. And so we talked it through. Then, you can just ask him, I sent this email and I made this phone call. I didn't hear from you. Why? And then that got them into this conversation. And then she said, but I told you. Well, no, actually she hadn't. She thought she had said, I want regular updates. So it helps things flow more smoothly. It helps the human interaction. Also, our businesses really go a lot better. We retain clients that maybe would have jumped ship. We have more profitable engagements, because when people feel comfortable, when they feel like they're understood, then you build trust.
Yeah.
Building relationship, as you know, in your business, right? When you have relationship, then you can do better business on all sides.
Yeah.
And also in the private sector, this is it's useful anywhere that you want to be in relationship with people. So that's just about everywhere.
Yeah, for most of us. Right. So do you have any other examples you want to run through?
Well, I have one that it's kind of a strong example, but it's so clear. I think it's really useful. And that one,
cool.
I was called recently by a friend whose mother had died, and she had literally just passed away in the nursing home. And so my girlfriend called me and said, can you come? And so I went, and she had 2 friends there, and then myself. And her mother was laying in state. She had just passed, and they were waiting for the coroner to come, and they were going to do a natural burial. And when I arrived, my friend was, I don't want to say chipper, but she just seemed really almost a little frantic. And she's standing in the room with her mother's body, but didn't talk about it. And so I took a chair. There was a chair close to the bed, so I took a chair and I brought it over, and I brought another chair over so she and I could sit down next to her mom's body. And I said, would you like to join me? And she came over, and I said, so when did your mom pass? So I got the facts, right? Because I didn't know. It's half an hour and this, and she gave me all the details of what happened and what she was doing, and that she talked to her mom and things. And I said, so I can imagine that you're really not only in shock, but probably really deeply, deeply sad that you've lost your mom, that she's gone now, because you guys were so close and you loved her so much. And I can imagine that all you really want right now is to be able to talk to her and have her be here again. And, she just was still kind of stoic and didn't say anything. And then I went through it again, and maybe you have some regret of the things that you didn't say. And maybe you'd like to say those things to her. And, I'd like to invite you. Is there something you'd like to say to your mom now? And so she did. Then she started talking, and that seemed to open the gates for her to be able to be in it. And then the tears came, and the grief and whatever she had left unsaid. And it really helped her move through that. Now, would she have gotten through that anyway? Of course she would have. But for whatever reason, she couldn't make that transition from her mom was breathing 2 hours ago. And now she's not. Now there's a physical body there without her mom's life living it.
Yeah.
She couldn't access her own experience of that. And so just going through, and I went through it twice, those things. And it wasn't formulaic. I was just really looking at what was going on and imagining what she must be feeling, and just staying in touch with her. Did you want to say something, or is that correct? And then that opened it up that she could then start, really being in touch with what was going on for herself. So that's more of an, let's say, unusual circumstance. But I think it's an important one, because we do get caught like deer in the headlights often in situations where the other person is not capable or is struggling with something. And if you
Yeah.
have clarity of mind, it works great with children who sometimes don't know how to formulate. They know what they're feeling, but they don't know how to formulate yet, depending on their age, right? And
Yeah.
often adults don't. So to just help that, I can imagine I would feel this way, or maybe you're feeling that way. Is that right? And maybe you want to have this conversation, or you want to tell him to stop, or you want to ask her to meet you, or and then they're like, yeah, that's no, that's not it. Oh yeah, that's it. And so you're helping them clarify their experience by walking through this for them and with them.
Yeah, I think that's a great example where there's not an argument or anything that somebody's trying to solve here. It's just you're helping them work through however they're feeling, and hopefully they can gain a better understanding of what's going on for them, so that they can figure out what they need to do to move forward.
Exactly. And even if it's not to figure it out, just to be, as I said earlier, just to be heard.
Yeah.
And the other folks in the room were chatting, but just to have somebody come and be willing to sit next to a lifeless body. And as I said, that was an extreme situation. But I've had young children come if they've had an argument with each other. And just to say, wow, I really see that, when you lost that baseball game, that really hit you hard. Like, you must feel sad and disappointed, because I can see you like putting it all out there on that field. Like, you ran every base as fast as you could. You hit every ball as far as you could. Like, I really get that. And you probably would like to have a different outcome, I'm imagining, or you'd like to be able to tell your teammates that you're sad about that. And they're like, yeah. So even if they don't take action on that, just to be heard.
Yeah.
Someone's experience is really powerful.
Yeah. I love that. This has been awesome. I told you before we jumped on the interview today that I've been taking notes feverishly, and I'm going to do my darndest to start putting this into action, because I find the sooner I put things into action, the better I am at them.
Absolutely.
Any last minute thoughts you want to leave us with?
It's the one I said to you the other day, is really to believe in good, first in yourself and then in the other. And in our world today, it's so easy to believe that people are out to get us, or we are doing a bad job because we're inherently bad. And maybe flip that paradigm, try it on, and just see, wow, if the premise is that I'm really goodness inside, and then maybe the other person is as well, if I want to consider that, then I have no loss to share what's going on for me. And I have a whole gain to try and understand what's going on with the other person. And then really almost miraculous situations take place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know in the first episode, we talked about where people can go, LeezaSteindorf.com. You also have yourcoresuccess.teachable.com. And there they'll find multiple courses that will help them with what we've been talking about the last 3 interviews.
Yes. So I have on my website, actually, the pop-up that comes is a 3-part series on exactly this. So you also get some worksheets, so you can opt in for that. And then on Teachable, the classes that I have there, and I also have it on LearnDesk.com. But the classes that you'll find there's another one called Connected Communication. There's the Genius of Non-Judgment, which is free. There's Core Personal Transformation, which is a really powerful training. And then I have the Parenting Success Blueprint, which is a very in-depth training for parents.
Awesome. Guys, we've done this for 3 episodes now. I think it is very clear that Leeza knows exactly what she's doing. Head on over to our website, head on over to yourcoresuccess.teachable.com to take advantage of those resources. Reach out to her if you need help. She's obviously very easy to talk to. I've done it 3 times in a row now. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, Leeza. And for those of you that have been tuning in, I am Tim Fitzpatrick. Again, if you are running into roadblocks with your marketing, you need some help, head on over to our website, rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. Click on the Get a Free Consult button. I will help you push through those roadblocks so you know what the next right steps are for you. Till next time, take care.